278 people bedded down outside, 41% increase. But more than 500 long-term homeless people have been referred by GPs, charities and council workers. A recent report suggests that Manchester has twice as many rough sleepers than official data suggests, according to the man in charge of an ambitious project to give them all homes.
About 5 or 6 years ago, my lifestyle bumped into my age and everything started to become undone. At the time, I hope it's okay for me to say this, but I was injecting amphetamines. The man who sold it to me, he left a message on my answer phone, but I didn't get it. Don't take any more of that speed that I sold you. By the end, I'd already taken most of it, and 2 to 3 days later, I was admitted onto a liver unit, and 3 to 4 days after that, I phoned him up on his phone, and his dad picked up, and I said, "Is that?" And he said, "No, he died this morning of liver failure." So that was a kick in the arse.
Homes as investments. You've got to start thinking of homes as homes again and really think about what that means.
Oh, sorry, excuse me.
Oh, no worries. So what do you think, when people are thinking about homelessness, what do you reckon the main image is that comes to mind?
It's an image of street homelessness that most people think about.
The criminal.
Despair.
Despair, yeah.
By themselves without a community or a family.
It's always a white, middle-aged man.
Quite often when it's criminalised, leeching.
You perceive it as if it's their problem and they're there for a reason.
So what is it that really pisses you off about the way that homelessness is represented and portrayed?
One of my really pet hates, they're like, "Oh, it must be so nice being back in society." Well, hang on a sec, I didn't fucking leave. Do you know what I mean?
Being walked by over and over again, I think, is one of the most damaging things. So even if someone approaches someone and does say something a bit stupid, as long as it's done with beautiful intentions, I think it's all right.
We've got to have certain different structures in the housing sector, because if you can't pick yourself up and you're having to go onto the benefit system, then you're going to be stuck there.
It's not really about helping people, isn't it? Isn't it more about empowerment and people just being part of society?
We're in a situation where a lot of people are getting left behind and people don't really feel they need to work with others anymore, and I think that needs to change.
And what do you think about the power of stories to do that?
Sorry about the noise. All right.
So what happened there?
Well, we just did a scan of your brain to see how it responded to pictures of different types of people, including dehumanized people like the homeless.
And what did the scan show?
Well, that's pretty normal brain reaction because in our culture, homeless people tend to be people that we don't want to think about their minds. We don't want to think about how much they're suffering. But there are lots of homeless people who suffer from mental illness or from just a series of unfortunate circumstances. They end up sleeping rough on the street. You can change your brain response simply by thinking about their minds. And an easy way to sort of get used to doing that is to listen to their stories, to compare it to your own experiences. For instance, in Japan, you tend to find that homeless people there elicit sympathy instead of disgust and contempt. And so people don't dehumanize those homeless people, mainly because each person within that society knows someone who, because of some type of economic or natural disaster, was homeless at some point. And then you begin realizing quite automatically that they're just regular people like you and me, and your brain response will change as well.
So I found that there were periods where you had no roof over your head or you had nowhere to go, and that's where the black plastic bag came in. And I can honestly say they've been a godsend. Do you know what? They're getting a lot of bad press at the moment because they're plastic and they don't die. But When you've got nowhere to put your stuff in and your whole life's falling apart, you just end up putting all your stuff in black plastic bags and they become your mates.
Because of right to buy and the sell-off of social housing, which came in 1980, so it's been a long time, but since 2012 alone, enough social housing has been sold into the private market to house the population of Oxford, and it hasn't been replaced.
If you're fleeing domestic violence and there's no shelter for you to go to, which the government is shutting down right now, like left, right and centre, your option is to live on the street.
I think 1 in 4 young homeless people is LGBTQ. For a lot of people, the family that you're born into doesn't work.
For me especially, my mental health was severely bad when I was on the streets. It got to the state that obviously I took my own life. You lose complete self-worth, and this is why it's so difficult for people to rebuild their lives. Surely there should be, something there which can actually stop it getting to that situation.
And we've got to make spaces for people who are not able to live a mainstream life, and for that to be viewed as a positive thing, even if it's not profitable. What do you want to say to the world?
Fucking wake up. Do you know what I mean? It's quite simple. The world needs to really fucking get a grips with itself and actually wake up to the problem. Whether they give £1 or whatever to a charity or to a person on the street, or just sit there and talk to somebody and get to know somebody. Just wake the fuck up. It's that simple.
There's a revolution of everybody in society wanting things to change. Despite these awful, the worst possible sort of circumstances, people still are able, and to forge those communities.
Everybody has a voice, and society has taken some people's voices away.
There isn't one story which isn't important. It's what builds everything about us. It's what makes us human. Because even when you've got nothing, you've still got your story.
We had this quote: "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some of us have entertained angels unawares." See, the thing is, the idea of actually addressing homelessness, that's an oxymoron, because there are all sorts of different type of people out there in that, and they've all got compassion and the broadness of experience to say, I understand, I'm not going to exclude, but... Do you know something? That would take like a massive revolution. Not a revolution, but a revolution of thought.